If you were to take a deep dive and isolate some of the ingredients within the EMPowerPlus and consume them in overabundance, creating that imbalance, you could actually create mania, or you could even create depression. That is potentially the case. But when you're looking at it from a holistic approach, when you're taking a look at all of the ingredients working synergistically together, it's just not logical. There's nothing in there that would, or nothing in there in conjunction with all the other ingredients that's going to create mania, right? And that's exactly why we see so much elimination of psychosis and mania by the use of the EMPowerPlus. And
there was one thing that I wanted to ask you about. You've talked about balance, how important it is to have balance in the minerals and on that, and understanding how they work together. I have seen people make claims that Truehope supplements cause mania. Could you speak a little bit to why that would be an incorrect claim? Because obviously it was designed specifically for bipolar disorder in the first place. It resolved my bipolar, like it healed my brain. So why would somebody experience, maybe they tried taking it and didn't go off their medications and the medications actually caused mania? What could have caused that situation? And can you speak to that?
absolutely. Yeah, so the scenario that you put out there is probably the most often case where it's actually the medication, which, symptom, if you go into rxlist.com and look at the side effects of that medication, you're going to probably find mania. Very, very common with many of these psychiatric medications. And so there's a good chance that if medications were involved, it was actually the medication that would have created that state of mania. But when you actually take a look at the formula and you take a look at what we're doing, there's 36 ingredients. 33 of those ingredients you're getting every day, though in insufficient levels, you're getting them every day out of your diet. And so there's nothing abnormal there. And then when you take a look at the other 3 ingredients, you have grape seed extract. So if you're eating grapes with the seeds and you're chewing on the seeds, which you probably should be doing if you can actually find grapes with seeds, then you're actually getting that 34th ingredient. And the other one is citrus bioflavonoids. So, if you're eating citrus, boom, you get ingredient 35. And then ingredient 36, almost nobody's going to be getting because it's a ginkgo biloba. And most people aren't going and chewing on ginkgo biloba, right? And so, but that's there to help deliver the rest of the nutrition in the product by increasing blood flow, right? And getting it to where it needs to go, including the brain. So for it to create mania, there's nothing in there that would create mania. You don't get mania from eating a balanced diet, right? You just don't. You can get mania from having insufficient levels of nutrition that's supposed to be coming from a balanced diet, which is oftentimes the case. But the nutrition itself is actually going to help balance that. Now, so medication aside, if you were to take a deep dive and isolate some of the ingredients within the EMPowerPlus and consume them in overabundance, creating that imbalance, you could actually create mania, or you could even create depression. That is potentially the case. But when you're looking at it from a holistic approach, when you're taking a look at all of the ingredients working synergistically together, it's just not logical. There's nothing in there that would, or nothing in there in conjunction with all the other ingredients that's going to create mania, right? And that's exactly why we see so much elimination of psychosis and mania by the use of the EMPowerPlus. In fact, one of the medical journal publications on the EMPowerPlus was done on psychosis alone, which is really just like mania to the next level, right? And, tremendous results with that, with correcting psychosis. Same thing goes with major depressive disorder. It's pulling people out of that. And so it's not something that's stimulating, that's creating a high or a low or anything like that. It's creating balance by just feeding the body and the brain what it needs. And I'll actually touch on that real quickly as to why it's doing that and why nutrition, why proper mineral supplementation alongside the vitamins is actually addressing the root of the situation versus trying to take a medication. And, I don't have a chart here or anything to show a visual, but if you follow me for a minute, we'll talk about serotonin production and dopamine production. And they're very, very similar in the body. So serotonin starts off with tryptophan. And the tryptophan, essential amino acid, is converted through an enzyme reaction. It's, I think it's tryptophan hydroxylase enzyme. It requires 5 different nutrients in order to get that enzyme reaction to take place, to take the tryptophan and turn it into 5-hydroxytryptophan or 5-HTP, which many people are aware actually helps with depression. But once again, that's a Band-Aid solution, right? We should be asking the question, why aren't we producing enough 5-hydroxytryptophan to then convert into 5-hydroxytryptamine, which is better known as serotonin? So here it is. Tryptophan goes through an enzyme reaction that requires iron, methyl tetrahydrofolate or methylated vitamin B9, vitamin C, vitamin D3, and vitamin B3. Okay, so those 5 nutrients. If you're lacking any one of those, that enzyme reaction doesn't take place. You're not taking tryptophan and turning it into 5-hydroxytryptophan. And then to go from 5-hydroxytryptophan, all you need is activated vitamin B6, which is pyridoxine 5-phosphate, and it incites that enzyme reaction to take it and turn it into serotonin. The serotonin then will eventually convert into melatonin, which is why many times people that have depressive issues will also have sleep issues. Because if you're not producing enough serotonin, there's a really good chance you're not producing enough melatonin. And so that's how it's working right there. It's addressing the nutrient deficiencies that would prevent us from naturally taking these amino acids and converting them into the various neurotransmitters that we need. And so here's the problem is if somebody's not producing enough serotonin, and so they go and take a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor that's going to impact the level of serotonin in the body. If they weren't able to produce the serotonin naturally, they're also likely, like almost 100% likely, not able to produce enough dopamine either. And the reason being is the only difference in the dopamine pathway and the serotonin pathway is the precursor. You go from tryptophan, now with dopamine, it's tyrosine. And then you have tyrosine hydroxylase, which requires the exact same 5 nutrients, iron, methyl tetrahydrofolate, vitamin C, D, and B3. Now it converts that into L-DOPA, and then L-DOPA requires, once again, just the activated vitamin B6. So it's almost exactly the same. It's just the starting ingredient is just a different amino acid, but they convert into these various transmitter or neurotransmitters that we need. So if you're not producing serotonin, there's a really good chance you're not producing dopamine either. And that's why oftentimes the reward circuitry in the brain isn't working that well, that you find people really diving into these addictive behaviors to try to get that dopamine fix. It coincides with mental illness quite often. And it's just because the reward circuitry in the brain is not naturally working. You're not producing dopamine on a regular basis where you just feel high on life just for being alive, right? So that's really why it's working. Now, we only talked about 6 ingredients there, right? Aside from the precursors, which makes it 7 nutrients to produce serotonin. But that's actually direct. There's also a bunch of other stuff that has to take place indirectly in relation to activating vitamin B6, as well as taking folate or folic acid and converting it into methyl tetrahydrofolate. So now we're going to different pathways that require different nutrients. So then when we start to chase all that down, what you come to the conclusion at the end of the day is you just need a lot of nutrition in proper balance and bioavailable so that it can, your body can do what it needs to do. And that's just talking about 2 neurotransmitter pathways. We could begin to break down, the production of hormones and mood regulating hormones as well. And you're going to find the same thing. You just need a very wide array of all of the proper nutrients to allow for you to thrive, is what it comes down to.